Buckle up, football fans. It's time for Toyota Talks. All right, let's bring in Sherree Burruss from Good Morning Football on the NFL Network. Does a terrific job with Kyle Brandt and Jamie Erdahl, Manti Te'o. Sherree, thanks for the time. And let me get into it because Bears hit the bye week even at 2-2. Give us an idea of the feeling at Good Morning Football about the Bears. Are they more lucky than good, or, hey, listen, did they create their own luck with that blocked field goal in Las Vegas?
You know, Lou, sometimes it's a little bit of both. You just got to get that right bounce of the ball. Here for GMFB OT, there's just this real optimism about the Bears, but I also want to add in that it's also a realistic optimism about the Bears. The history of the Bears have kind of told us one thing, but the fact that they have been able to string some of these wins together, there is hope. But as Kyle, our resident Bear fan, mentioned, that before the bye week last season, the Bears were 4-2 and then went on a very long losing streak there, which was really painful. So the expectations are sort of tempered as it's a good start, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. You know, we gotta make sure we get into this bye week and keep things rolling for the Bears.
Do me a favor. Tell that resident Bears fan, Kyle Brandt at Good Morning Football, that he's not a man if he's not jumping in with both feet. All right. You tell him Lou said that. That's what a real fan is. I do, seriously, my question off that is, you know, Ben Johnson and his coaches, and I get what Kyle's worried about, but Ben and the coaches are really working on changing a losing culture. And my question is, could it happen this quickly, just 3-4 games in?
You know, that's a good point. I'm not sure if I would be totally bought in myself saying it only would take 3 or 4 games to completely change a culture like that. Coach Ben Johnson clearly has that experience from what he did with Detroit and being able to turn that team and sort of that franchise around and what we've seen. But I think, Lou, you can really look at it at a work in progress or as a work in progress. Winning is kind of a band-aid, right? Like it kind of can hide certain things that are wrong, some of those bumps and bruises. As the season goes on, we're going to see the Bears have some adversity or some challenges. So I think those are going to be sort of the more telling times than these good times. But all signs seemingly are pointing that Coach Johnson and his staff are at least making their mark and things are changing for the better.
I'll tell you what, Bears are not winning games because of Caleb Williams, Sherree. Guy led the 11-play, 69-yard drive at the end to move ahead of the Raiders. Are your teammates on Good Morning Football now starting to buy into Caleb?
Well, I can at least give Kyle this credit, Lou. He has always been on the Caleb Williams bandwagon. So there is faith in Caleb, and there is this consensus that, yeah, he can do it. At least for me personally, I think there's just still a couple question marks that he doesn't have this long tenured career, right? We don't have the receipts to prove he can come in clutch, or he doesn't maybe sometimes still make that early quarterback mistake that we have seen. But there have been those glimmers of hope in those moments when you're like, man, he scrambled for what? He just dodged that defender. So there is that belief that Caleb can do it. It's just the question of is the consistency of it.
And to me, a great question is, how good can Ben Johnson make Caleb Williams? Can he turn Caleb Williams into one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football?
Man, wouldn't Bears fans love that? There is such a hunger. I mean, growing up in the Chicago suburbs, we were talking about it. There has been this desire for there to be that dominant franchise guy that has just seemingly been missing. Lou, I do have to admit, I am a Packers fan. So part of me is like, no, I hope not. Because there is a part of me that's worried because Ben Johnson is so good at developing quarterbacks and Caleb has those tangible and intangible elements to his game. So as a Packer fan, I can also tell you I'm a little worried, which might make Bears fans a little happy.
I need to ask, from Vernon Hills, but a Packers fan?
I joke I was raised right. It's because growing up,
You were
my
raised
dad
on your
rooted
head.
for one team, I rooted for the other. It was the Packers. It's a long, complicated history.
All right, we'll get into it another time. How about the Bears run? The Bears run defense has not been good. That run defense has given up more yards than any team in football. You think the Bears coaches can figure this out during the bye week?
They're going to have to, right? If they want to be back on top of the NFC North, that has to be a priority number one. And looking at their schedule, not to get it too far ahead of myself, but not too far in the future, they have to play potentially Jaden Daniels or Marcus Mariota, how he's feeling. Then also you have a guy like Lamar Jackson coming up. Those type of quarterbacks are really going to challenge a defense in all regards, because if they can pass, then that opens up the run. The run game gets going. They go hand in hand, as you know. So the fact that they have this bye week, which week 5 is maybe can be looked at a little bit early, it might be a great time to kind of assess that first quarter of here we are, here's our opportunities, here's our challenges, let's just hit the ground running.
Yeah, I agree with Ben Johnson. I actually appreciate the early bye. Last season, Bears went into the bye week 4-2, and then they lost 10 games in a row. Tell me that's not going to happen again this year.
It's not going to happen again this year.
Woohoo!
I don't know, though. Week 7, I think, was their bye right last year. And then they had that, I'm so sorry, the Hail Mary against Washington. And that just sort of really derailed whatever was happening. I think, Lou, if the Bears are going to keep things on pace this year, coming out the bye, keep this stronger start, they can't lose focus. They need to keep their foot on the gas and keep this momentum, even though they might be gone for the week away from Hallis Hall, recouping whatever they need to do. There can be no physical or mental lapse that they would find themselves in a situation similar to last season.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I know Ben Johnson and his coaching staff will do their best to make sure these players are dialed in when they come back for that Washington game. Let me give you a wrap-up, because I know you get to look at all the teams and talk about all the teams in the NFL. Let's stick with the NFC North. Lions have the best record in the NFC North right now, but the Packers are still the favorites to win the division. Who do you think is the best team in the NFC North right now?
So I obviously my answer with my heart would probably be the Packers, but also with my brain, I would probably say Green Bay, just the way the offense is clicking. Sure, Jordan Love has kind of made a few mistakes and that offense has hit some hiccups, but that defense is playing so fast. Another season under defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. Those dudes are just flying. But looking at the Bears schedule, again, I made my all the way to the bottom. Lou, there's 5 games at the end of the season, right? 2 of them are against Green Bay and 1 is against the Lions. It is going to be so important to come back and make sure that everyone is healthy, still checked in, physically, mentally ready to go, because I know we always talk about the importance of coming down the stretch, but those last 5 games with 3 opponents in the NFC North is really going to be, I don't want to call it a daunting task, but there's definitely going to have their hands full as you look at those last few games of the season.
Let's hope, as Ben Johnson says, he's promised the Bears will be playing their best football by December. Sherree, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate the time.
Always great to see you, Lou. Thank you.